Attention New York City listeners, I'm excited to share 2 upcoming live This Is Taste tapings that I think you're going to like, taking place at Rizzoli Bookstore in Manhattan's Flatiron District. On April 8th, I will be joined by Barbara Costello, better known through her Brunch with Babs social accounts. We will be talking about her brand new cookbook, Cooking with Babs. And on May 5th, I will be joined by photographer and journalist Craig Maude for a reading and conversation about his debut memoir, Things Become Other Things. I love this book so much and welcome you all in to hear his story about walking around Japan and so much more. Tickets are available at the Rizzoli website, rizzolibookstore.com. I hope to see you there.
You don't have to go to culinary school to learn technical things. Like, you can easily pick that up on the job. But I met a set of people, not least of all, one that I married and then built a life with. But you meet a set of people who really enrich your life in many ways. And I'm so, so glad I went to the CIA.
This is Taste. I'm your host, Matt Rodbard. We have such a great episode today. Shilpa and Miro Uskokovic are the husband and wife duo behind the amazing New York City bakery, Hani's, located in the East Village. First up, I have an amazing conversation with Shilpa about her professional cooking career, which would later lead to a job at Bon Appetit. Today, Shilpa is BA's senior test kitchen editor, and we talk about some of the stories she is working on and how the new BA Bake Club is getting so many people to take a break and just bake. Later on, Aliza catches up with Miro to talk about his incredible pastry career and his legacy as pastry chef at Gramercy Tavern, where he worked for over a decade. And of course, they talk about Hani's and the amazing desserts and baked items lining the bakery's case. Shilpa and Miro are 2 of our favorites in food. What a power couple. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Shilpa Uskokovic, welcome to This Is Taste. How are you doing?
I am so good. I'm so good. It's a Thursday.
It is.
Which means tomorrow's a Friday and I don't have to go in person to the office.
Beautiful.
And Thursday, I feel like, is my Friday.
I love that feeling.
I love it.
We can make the timelines different. So when you are not in the test kitchen where you're at BA, where you're creating so many cool recipes, we'll get into many of them. What's a Friday like for you?
Oof. Matt, now you're gonna make me showcase how supremely uncool I am. Typical Friday for me is probably I'm at home. I'm probably cooking something, or I'm going grocery shopping, or I'm doing laundry.
That is life.
I know.
That is amazing. That's what we all do.
I know. I wish I had an exotic, glamorous answer, but my days are pretty full.
Yeah.
So the free time that I do have at home, I try to cram in doing the basic things of life.
So when you're going to cook tomorrow, what's on the agenda, or is it more improv?
Oh, a little bit of both. I'm not a planner. And I've said this to many people about anything in life, really. Even the fact that I work at Bon Appetit was very unplanned. So I'm not a planner, but I have realized that putting a few guardrails does help a lot in anything in life. So what I do now is I plan what groceries, as every New Yorker does, I order through Fresh Direct.
Yeah, right.
So I get some of my groceries delivered online. So I plan because I know what I'm getting in for the week. I okay, I'm going to do this. So actually tomorrow I'm going to make creamed mushrooms and leeks on toast.
Oh, I love that combo.
Yeah.
What's the bread choice?
Oh, we got a loaf from Libre Bakery.
Libre, yeah. East Village, right?
Yep.
Yeah, great spot. Speaking of New York, where are you dining out these days? I always want to ask.
Actually, my husband and I have been eating out a lot lately. We recently opened a bakery in the East Village,
Love
actually. It's called Hani's.
Yep.
So because, working at the bakery, being a new business owner is a lot of work, we find ourselves eating out a lot after work. And I think of the ones that we had, I guess the most recent one that we had was actually Whole Foods, which every time I tell somebody, they're like, you ate at Whole Foods, the grocery store? And I was like, nope. Whole Foods, H-O Foods, and it's this Taiwanese spot.
Yep.
in the East Village, really tiny. We sat at the counter, but really great food. It was just a fun vibe. It felt like old New York, where you just walk in and discover like a small, easygoing space.
Yeah, the beef noodle soup there,
The beef
amazing.
noodle soup, so good.
So good.
Miro got the beef noodle soup, and I got the Lorofan.
Oh, yeah.
I got that one. Both are very good. Where else? Oh, we went to Borgo. Desserts were very good at Borgo.
Nice.
Very understated, very refined, elegant.
When you think about refined, I love that word. And from your professional background, define it more. Let's tap into refined, because I love that.
I think refined, to me, in terms of food, displays a technical excellence in the execution of it. It doesn't have to be over the top. That's not what refinement is to me. But to me, if, like, for instance, when I'm speaking about Borgo and being refined, we had a slice of rhubarb galettes.
Yes.
Amazing. The crust, so thin, yet somehow very crisp and able to withstand the moisture from the rhubarb. So to me, that was refinement, a refinement of technique. And it was really a treat to have those desserts at Borgo. Really excellent. Where else? Our usual fallback place in Queens, which we live in Queens, Mira and I, is Playground. It's a Thai place.
Oh, cool.
And we go there. And the spicy is definitely spicy, like playing into the whole stereotype. Yeah, those would be...
I like those choices. Like when you run a bakery and you're tasting all day, is there like a food that you crave at the end of a long shift?
Okay, I have to say, neither Miro or I actually ever get tired of eating sweets.
I mean,
much to the dismay of our doctor. But I think we do crave a lot of like spicy, brothy foods at the end of the day.
Brothy, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You're working around structure, you're working around sweetness and like fire and water.
Yeah.
Let's put that.
Yes, it really helps balance out the fattiness of the day.
How's the bakery doing?
Oh, bakery is doing really well, Matt. Thank you for asking. It's been, I mean, I know this is going to sound very arrogant in many ways, but, Miro is very, very accomplished as a pastry chef. So we knew it would start off on a good foot, but we did not anticipate how well people would take to it. So we feel very happy and lucky.
I've not been. So
oh my God.
I know this, and I usually try to prep my interviews, but we're going to talk about BA stuff on this portion, and Miro's part of this conversation will be all about the bakery.
Yes.
Don't need to double it up. I will go. I know Aliza's a huge fan. We've talked about on the show.
Please come. We'd love to have you.
I want to hear about your career. It's really, really cool how you ended up at Bon Appetit as the senior food editor. Take me back, though, to the CIA, working through the program. Did you do full undergrad and culinary practicum? What was that like?
Okay, as I said before, not a planner. And every single move of mine has been very unplanned. I actually have a bachelor's degree. I grew up in India.
Yeah.
And have a bachelor's degree in like commerce and economics.
Cool.
I could not do a single one of those things. Like I could not tell you anything about economic theory.
You run a bakery.
Well, I guess.
Use some of it.
And one day I was also starting to be an accountant. Just hated it. And then I was like, what do I do next? And I don't know why, but culinary school somehow came up. And my parents, loving as supportive as they are, they were like, go do it if that's what you want.
Oh, that's amazing to hear.
That is amazing. So that's how I ended up at the CIA, which is the Culinary Institute of America in Hyde Park, upstate New York. And honestly, it was such a good time.
Yeah.
There are very few times of my life that I say, oh, I wish I could repeat that. But the CIA is one of those times.
Amazing.
I wish I could go back.
Yeah.
It was just a lovely time. I think part of it was because that was my first time being away from home. And I had a lovely childhood, very, very protected, very privileged childhood. So to come away and be on my own was such an adventure. And then studying this thing, which I didn't know that you could make into a professional endeavor. I didn't know you could cook for a living. I didn't really think about it. Of course, you see people cooking.
You went to restaurants, I'm sure, as a kid, but you never assumed that would be your job.
Exactly. Yeah. You didn't realize that you could. There's a formal way of educating yourself in this. So it was for somebody who liked food, who was interested in the technical details of it, moving away from home, being there was just so fun. I met my husband there.
Amazing.
That's how Mira and I met. We met at culinary school. We were classmates. And then I met friends who I'm still friends with. I will not tell you how many years later because that would date me.
Oh,
but
come on.
just now
You're
it's
timeless.
many years later.
There's no need. Many years, we'll call it. Okay.
Yeah, many years later. So in retrospect, I get this. A lot of people ask me this question, like, do you recommend going to culinary school? And I'm very conflicted about the answer because you don't have to go to culinary school to learn technical things. Like you can easily pick that up on the job. But I met a set of people, not least of all, one that I married and then built a life with. But you meet a set of people who really enrich your life in many ways. And I'm so, so glad I went to the CIA.
That's amazing. After the CIA, famously, you have to do an externship.
Yeah.
You end up in New York City, I imagine. What's it like when you graduate and you're about to go into the workforce? Because you say you come to culinary school with not a lot of experience in restaurants. So you're thrown into the mix a bit?
Yeah. It was to go to the CIA, you have to have like a 6-month or a 4-month training program before you even join.
Yeah.
Which, comparatively is nothing. But after graduation, it was challenging to start working. CIA sets you up quite well. We have like these restaurants, so you work. So you kind of have an indication, but it's nothing like working a real line on a busy Saturday night or a Sunday brunch in New York. My first job once I graduated from school was actually at Perry Street in the West Village. It was for Cedric Wongerichten, who is Jean George's son. It was such a good restaurant.
Yeah.
To this day, I am so grateful that I worked in that restaurant. And that was my first job because it was a small team. So Cedric was very hands-on.
Yeah.
So you could really see and learn from him. And he was so good at his job. And there was so much emphasis on being clean, organized, fast. And that first job that you do sets you up, I think, for the rest of your career.
Yeah.
And that's always laid the foundation for every other restaurant that I've been to or how I work. It really set that stage, and I always look for those same characteristics. Every job that I looked for after, I was like, is it a clean kitchen? Is it organized? Is it neat? And that's always stayed with me.
With Perry Street, what's the takeaway of the cuisine that you learned there? Was there like a technique or style of cooking that you would say that Perry Street, because of course the name is anonymous, but we know Cedric's cooking and JG's style.
Yeah.
Technique is at the highest level, but like what kind of culinary history are you learning or technique are you picking up?
Yeah, Perry Street, much like most of the food at JG, for instance, is very, I would say, French, but also has many Asian and other influences to it. Even many years later, I can still think of this dish that we had, Frog Hollow Farm peaches. First time I ever had those peaches, my God, they blew my mind. Frog Hollow Farm peaches, goat cheese, and caramelized wasabi.
Unreal.
So here was this combination, the fruit and the cheese, very traditional in a way, very Eurocentric, and then this crystallized wasabi just blew my mind. We did this cod dish with a ratatouille, but it had pineapple and tamarind in it. I think those flavors, I have to say, Jean-Georges' book, his first book, the one that's with Mark Bittman, really influenced my entire career and my own outlook on food. The way he combines flavors, I think, is something that I respect and emulate to this day.
Amazing. After Perry Street, are you jumping around? Are you at a restaurant for a while? I know your resume, but I want you to tell us about what you've been up to.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say I came up like I'm some notorious.
Yeah, you came up in an era. I mean, the era you're cooking too is interesting.
It was a very interesting era. That was the time that food was really starting to gain traction in a way and become really mainstream and a thing that people wanted to be in. People were taking a lot of pride to be called chefs. iPhone was relatively new. Instagram was relatively new. Things were just blowing up. I often think of that maybe as like the golden age in many ways of food and our unprecedented access to good quality food, I think, in that time. So at that point in my career, I made it a point to kind of move around. I wanted to try and work at different restaurants because I was young. I didn't have to settle down. I wanted to learn from different influences and try to use that in my work. So after Perry Street, I actually went back home to India briefly. And then when I came back, I was at Maialino. Again, beautiful restaurant by Nick Anderer at the time. I'm so sad that it's not there anymore.
I know.
But that was, and Maialino was also in many ways like Perry Street. It was very honest food. We didn't do sous vide anything, no foams, no emulsions. But again, such memorable dishes. I still think about this pig face salad. It was half a pig's face that we would cook overnight in the oven. Kind of like steamed almost. And then during pickup, during service, we would deep fry it and then serve it with this really acidic salad. That was the first restaurant I had pig hearts, and I remember loving it. So just very monumental in my own culinary education. I was at Maialino for a while. I loved that. Then I moved to Marea, which was not far from our studio.
When you walk into the studio, are there like flashbacks? Are there like memories of Marea when you're walking around this neighborhood?
No, I love this neighborhood. I love this area around Central Park because it comes with so many good memories. I used to, Miro and I both started off our careers during internship. We worked at Jean George. So this area is very familiar and dear to us. And we actually walked past recently and we were reminiscing about it after the Cake Zine event, actually.
Oh, cool. Great.
So walking here was really great. Marea was amazing. Again, I worked, and Marea was fundamental in my journey because that was the first time I switched from being a savory cook to a pastry cook. Miro and I both went to school for culinary course, and then interestingly we both switched to pastry. Miro much earlier in his career and I halfway through my career, but Marea was the first time I started working as a pastry cook, and that was just, I never knew of Italian desserts much before I started at Marea, and that really helped me get like a good understanding of what goes on and the different kind of flavor combinations. Lovely kitchen, huge kitchen. This was a departure for me. It was huge, but again, really well organized, lovely team of people, and I stayed there for a while.
What's a pastry cook's schedule like at Marea for you? What's it? I mean, what are the hours like, and what kind of assembly? I mean, it's a restaurant of high regard, Michael White, and it's a restaurant that it does volume. It's a volume restaurant. I mean, it's around the world now, that brand, but what's it like your schedule wise?
Well, it really depends. In Marea and like most other restaurants, in multiple shifts. So we would have AM shift, PM shift, and some restaurants would have an overnight shift, which at Marea I worked, I think actually in Marea I only worked the PM shift.
Okay.
So I was mostly doing service, which I love doing service. I love doing service. Service is when you like plate the desserts. When the order comes in, you plate the desserts and send it out to the guests. I loved the frantic energy of doing service. There was something about making those quenelles, making those scoops of ice cream. I'm very good at making a scoop of ice cream, actually. So I only worked PM at Marea. We would do some production when we got in. I think we went in at around 2. We would do a little bit of production, set up our stations, and then the rest of the night would be us working service. Because as you said, high volume, we were just doing a lot of numbers.
And like with dessert at a place like Marea, I mean, it is a restaurant of celebration. Like, between closing a deal to an anniversary to a birthday. So like it's on your shoulders during service to make sure that scoop is right, that cake is in the right place. I mean, that's excitement for you. I can sense that it wasn't a negative experience, the pressure of it.
Yeah, it could have been, and I'm not going to pretend like there were some days that I didn't want to go into work or it wasn't stressful. There were certainly those days, but it's true. Like knowing that this is for a good occasion, knowing that somebody is eating this food and they're loving it, they're reacting to it, helped me pay attention to what I was doing in the moment. And I truly did enjoy working service. And many people ask me, do you miss not being in restaurants anymore? And my only answer is, I miss working service.
Oh, well, I'm sure there'll be a service moment in your life. This bakery is always more career for you to have.
Yes, I suppose.
And Primavera Avocados is back for the spring and summer season. Grown on a family ranch in Southern California since 1979, these avocados are hand-picked and delivered to your door in perfect condition. You can order a box or sign up for a subscription to save money. Each box includes 4 pounds or 8 to 10 avocados delivered to your door. Order at primaveraavocados.com, PRIMAVERA avocados.com. Use promo code TASTE at checkout to get 10% off your order. These avocados are only in season through July, so order now. I know you continue to work, and you'll tell. I want to hear about how you kind of dovetailed into editorial. But as a broad question, while you're working these jobs and working at the CAA through your education, are you thinking about editorial? Are you thinking about writing recipes? Are you thinking about food media? Because now you're senior editor at Bon Appetit, and you're creating recipes and doing podcasts and video, and you're like an editorial person.
Yeah.
You are an editorial person. And
Yeah.
was this in your mind, this plan?
Never. I think the theme of this podcast is me just insisting that I was never a planner. But again,
very cool.
Not a planner. Never planned it. Never. I read food magazines, obviously, as somebody who cooked. I love cookbooks. We read cookbooks all the time. When we started off working in New York City, we would read cookbooks right before we went to bed. So recipes and reading other recipes were always a big part of my life, but never really thought about editorial. I was like, this is another world.
Interesting.
It's just somebody. They're just writing recipes somewhere. I'm not one of those people. So it was a very odd turn of events, where I ended up where I am.
So let's talk about your the end of your restaurant career, at least in the first phase, and getting into BA. So where do you end up after Maria?
After Maria, and my last ever restaurant job was at...
So it is the last ever.
It is the last ever.
You just said it okay.
It is the last ever one that I worked at. Was the Nomad.
Yeah.
Again, sadly, like Marlino, no longer exists, but a wonderful restaurant at the time, run by Daniel. It was not run by Daniel Home, but it was part of the 11 Madison Park and Make It Nice group. It was run by actually Jamal James Kent, who is sadly no longer with us. And again, that was a kitchen that I worked pastry. The most well laid out pastry kitchen I have seen in my career.
Wow.
Beautiful kitchen. And I was so spoiled by that at the bakery sometimes. And I'm like, oh my God, Miro, we have to go up and down the stairs to bake things. He's like, well, this is New York. And I'm like, not in the kitchens that I worked at. So I was definitely very spoiled in that kitchen. But amazing kitchen. Mark Welker was the pastry chef. That was the first time I think I felt like I really belonged in a way, or I really learned both sides or all sides of the restaurant program. Because at the Nomad, I worked both AM and PM. I stayed long enough to learn both sides, and then at Nomad, we would have to come in really early. We came in sometimes at 5 a.m, so which means I had to leave home by 3:30.
Oh my goodness! Those are the baker's hours that I assume. When you talk about working pastry,
usually exactly. Usually, when you're baking bread is when you have terrible hours. But if you're not baking bread, you have slightly more reasonable hours, I would say. But anyway, that was my last restaurant job, and I was there for a long time. I loved it. Working there is when I realized progressing in restaurants would mean, I can become a sous chef, and then I can maybe become a pastry chef or whatever. And I realized I didn't want that.
Yeah.
And by this time, my husband was already a pastry chef at Gramercy Tavern. And seeing him and seeing how much work he put in and seeing how much commitment that job took, I was like, actually, this is not the life I want for myself. So that made me quickly pivot.
So let's talk about the pivot. Let's talk about ending up at Bon Appetit. What gets you in the door? Is there a moment somebody recruits you? Are you doing freelance for other publications? I don't know this about your career. I think you just appeared fully formed at BA one day. And I wasn't watching that closely, but I was like, holy shit, this is an amazing creator and chef and recipe developer. And we met today. I don't really know you. And I know you from your work.
Yeah.
There must have been some magnet to get to BA at some point.
Yeah. Thank you for those kind words.
No, it's very true. It's absolutely true.
I have to actually thank Instagram in many ways for being at BA. Of course, there are many other people, which I'll get into. But essentially, after the Nomad, I was kind of depressed, I think, in retrospect when I think about it. But Erin McDowell, if you know her, she was working on her book, The Book of Pie. And she was like, one day she texted me, and we knew each other outside of, the book. And she texted me being like, hey, I'm writing this book. I'm having a cookbook shoot. Would you like to stop by and help out? And I said, yeah, of course, I'd love that.
So cool.
And my husband said, do it. It's a nice opportunity for you to go and do something. So I went. It was in New Jersey at her place when she was living here. I went all the way there, helped out for 2 days. It was great fun. Came back home. That was it. And Erin posted on her Instagram stories, about her cookbook shoot in BTS. And I was there in one of the pictures. And it so happened that Sarah Jampel, who worked at Bon Appetit at the time, she was in charge of the vertical, basically. And Sarah's now at King Arthur Baking Company. Sarah, I guess she knew Erin or she was friends with Erin, but she saw me on Erin's stories and she reached out to me saying hey, we're looking for freelance recipe contributors to Bon Appetit. Would you be interested?
That's very cool.
And I was like, what? Here I was reading this magazine for so many years, thumbing through its pages, and I was like, this is something other people do. And then an editor reaches out from Bon Appetit and they ask me if I want to contribute. So essentially that's how I started.
So you started writing one-off recipes for BA for the website.
Yes, I started writing one-off recipes. My very first recipe, I actually got commissioned 2 recipes at the same time, both of them fish recipes, both of them very popular. One was
very popular.
Very popular.
I see where this story's going. So people are loving what you're doing.
I mean, it was, listen, yes, people love those 2 recipes.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to be coy about it. People love those 2 recipes. Sarah commissioned me for a miso butterfish with asparagus.
Yeah.
And then Andy, who was also there at the time, those were his last few months, commissioned coconut mustard fish, which was a recipe that I developed based on a Bengali-style preparation of fish. And both of those did really well and it was very shocking to me. And it was very... After years of cooking, to then be able to take your experience and put it on a platform that many people then cook from, to see this kind of reception to what you do every day was just mind-blowing to me. I was like, what?
Yeah, I mean, you were working professionally 12, 14, 16 hours a day. You said you were a little depressed. You're working this job that you're not checking the gram to see what's in the pages of BA. You're in your own world because you have to be just for survival. So then to be, commission these recipes, have them succeed, it's like, hello. It's like food media. It's like food media welcomes you. Want to join our party? Kind of vibe.
Yeah, I was very lucky that those, in all fairness, credit to both Andy and Sarah for looking at my pitches and knowing that these would work for an audience. So, major credit to them for knowing that. And that's how I got my foot in the door in many ways. And I started off developing a couple of recipes. And then I saw that there was ad, for a job.
Like a
at
LinkedIn
BA.
ad for a job. Yeah.
There was an open position. That's the professional word.
Yeah,
open position.
Open position.
There was an open position for an editor role at BA, and then I was like, and I just started contributing recipes as well. So I reached out to Sarah being like, hey, Sarah, I see this position. Do you think I should apply? And she was like, absolutely, yes. And she was very kind. She gave me the email for Chris and Meryl. And I emailed them, and that's how I started. I remember at the time I was in India. It was 2021.
Yeah.
It was the COVID Delta variant was raging. We were all in lockdown. We were stuck in India. I mean, we had gone there to visit my parents, Miro and I, and we were supposed to come back within 4 weeks, but we were stuck there for 8 weeks. So I remember being in India and interviewing with Chris over Zoom and Meryl as well. And then I started freelancing with, full-time freelancing in a way.
Yeah.
With Bon Appetit for a few months. And then I started full-time.
And you got the job.
Yeah, and then I got the job.
So talk about those early years at BA, working in the test kitchen, putting out the magazine, the website recipes, and then of course your appearance on camera. I mean, you're from the bio you just told us about. It seems like you probably weren't doing a lot of camera work, and long history of camera at BA. There's some make it, some don't, some thrive, some don't, and you clearly are so natural at it. What was that like stepping up to the camera, start talking about your recipes on camera? And then also, two-part question, just like working in the test kitchen and developing the recipes with a cadence that I know is aggressive.
Being on camera was very, very new. I think maybe I need to say that I actually hate taking even pictures of myself. Like if I look through my camera roll, maybe now I've started to take like selfies of myself to check my makeup. But before that, I hated being photographed. I always have been very conscious of my appearance. So to be on camera was a lot. And I don't know that I'm still, thank you for saying that, I come across reasonably well on camera. I to some extent, I still don't feel very comfortable on camera because being on video, you capture, it's like a moment in time, it's captured. And then, of course, you have to be, edit. And sometimes nuance can be lost in a video. But it was something that I got comfortable doing. And I've learned to do whenever I'm asked to do it.
I'm going to ask the corniest question, but you're going to answer it because I think it says a lot is, what makes a Shilpa recipe work? Like, what makes it iconic? What makes it you?
I think my recipes are very thoughtful because, I take a lot of pride in my knowledge and ability as a cook. I feel like I'm extremely knowledgeable about food and cooking. So I use that to try to make a thoughtful recipe that is effective but doesn't ask a lot of the reader. And if I ask a reader to, let's say, deep fry something, I want it to be worth their time. So I like to think of my recipes as being thoughtful. I think they're also very flavor heavy. I don't shy away from the flavor. I don't shy away from like the gochujang and the misos and the chili crisps. I love big, bold, brash, in-your-face flavor.
40 cloves of garlic and chickpeas, for example.
Yes.
Love that.
This recipe was actually in collaboration with Emil Stanek. I love working with Emil, and his premise, his pitch was, the best way to meal prep is to have a dinner party on Sunday, and then you can keep the leftovers for the rest of the week. And so in going back and forth, we decided we both love stewed braised chickpeas. And I developed this recipe for chickpeas with 40 cloves of garlic. You have to count them out. I counted them out in the recipe, so you do as well. And it's just a very simple recipe. Emil and I disagreed on this point. He wanted dry chickpeas. And I was like, Emil, nobody's going to start with dried chickpeas,
nope.
man.
You are correct in that assumption. I speak for most
louder.
people. Yeah.
So I started with canned chickpeas, and I put them, in a pot with some chicken stock and 40 cloves of garlic that I sear first in a little bit of oil. And then by the time it's done simmering, the chickpeas just take on this otherworldly quality. You don't think this is from a can anymore. They become really buttery and soft. They really absorbed all of that olive oil and the garlic. It's just such a joy to eat. And I often make it for myself, and I eat it over toast.
Oh, yeah. I love your toast moves. You got mushrooms on toast tomorrow for lunch.
I love bread.
And then you got this chickpeas on toast. It's great. Especially if you live in a neighborhood that has a great bakery. Or you bake your own bread. I don't want to say people you bake your own bread. What a great way to use your own baked bread.
Yeah.
Speaking of baking, you host Bake Club at BA with Jesse. I love it. It's full of ideas. Talk about that program.
Bake Club was something that I thought of almost 2 years ago. Every year we have to goal setting exercise.
Yes.
What's your goal for the next year?
Yeah.
I was like, Bake Club. I was very much inspired by Christina Tosi's Bake Club, Cake Picnic. All of these spaces where people were coming together either in real life or virtually over this common interest of baking. And I was always fascinated by that, and I was very inspired by that. And I decided that at Bon Appetit, we have a great platform to engage our readers in this way. So I decided we should have something called BA Bake Club, where we would come up with a recipe and we would build a community around that. And it went nowhere for a little while, to be very frank. And then Jesse started a year or so after I was there at BA. And then slowly, he's also an excellent baker. So together we sort of plotted it a bit more. And then we spoke to a few editors, and Emma, our associate director of cooking, she was very into it as well. So she really supported our idea. And one thing led to the other. We really worked as a team, and we built out Bake Club, which now I have to say is a community of over 200 people.
Amazing.
Maybe 400. We'll fact check that.
Yeah.
And essentially it has multiple components. And the theme of Bake Club is Jesse and I develop a new recipe every month, and we publish it online. And as a subscriber, you have access to the recipe, of course, and then you also have access to us via Instagram close friends. So then we have this little group of people on Instagram.
That is so clever.
It's so fun. And Matt, I have to tell you, this is the most wholesome chat I've ever seen.
Love
Like,
that.
everybody's like, oh, I made this cake and it turned out amazing. And everybody's like swapping tips on how to bake. It's just nice. People share pictures of the things they bake. They ask us questions. And I think this is the part of Bake Club that I was really wanting for many years, is Jesse and I are able to respond in real time to those questions. And then we tell them, hey, this is what I did.
Wait, you're responding in real time?
Yeah, we respond.
That's
Sometimes,
really, really cool.
yeah.
I like
Sometimes
that.
when we see the messages coming, we respond right
That's
away.
the way to do it.
It's great. And people love that. People love to get intel from us who developed those recipes. And also we learn a lot.
Yeah.
And Jesse had developed this recipe for a chocolate olive oil cake. And many people missed the inclusion of water in that recipe. And we got so many complaints or notes from our subscribers who were in that close friends group that we had to go back and change where in the recipe water appeared
I see.
and how it appeared. And in a way, we changed the formatting of our recipes just because we got such good feedback.
Yeah.
Same thing with like a fast cheesecake that I developed. A lot of people had trouble with like mascarpone whipped topping that was on the cake. And then I had to go back and change the recipe. So it's been invaluable for us as recipe developers to have this kind of direct interaction with our readers. And it's so gratifying.
That's a real talk. I like that. That's how like a community works. And, not everybody's kitchen setup is the same. There's going to be variables happening. So to do pastry and baking recipes, there's always going to be a little bit of an inconsistency. And so for everyone to share that and help you write the perfect recipe,
Yes.
it's really fun. I'm going to link to Bake Club in the show notes.
Oh.
Check it out. Very cool.
Thank you.
On This Is Taste, we ask us about the discerning taste. So to close this interview, here's a little rapid fire Fast and Furious taste check. Are you ready?
Wait, I'm actually not.
The best fruit.
Mango, but only if it's Indian or Thai.
Where do you find them in New York then?
Thai mangoes are a little bit easier to find. Indian mangoes, I have to get them shipped in. There is a farm called Savani Farms, and I get Indian mangoes through them.
I love that. The worst vegetable.
Carrots. I don't
Wow,
have to think
so
twice.
fast you said
So
that.
fast that I don't have to think twice.
The
Carrots.
sugar content, the having to peel them, the why? What's the...
What is a carrot doing? What is it doing? It's woody. It's silly. It's not really doing anything.
Not even slow braised with like a cheese and a nut? And that's it?
Maybe, but I've seen that too many times. Pickled, I can take pickled carrots.
Pickled carrots, yeah. But we saved carrots a bit there, but you make a strong case, though they're woody. No one wants to eat anything woody. Not great.
They're woody. When you roast them, they often end up dry. So you have to like kind of steam them or boil them first and then roast them at a high heat. It's just too much work.
Great tip. So you'll go like maybe like 5-6 minutes, boil, pull out, take the moisture off, and then put them in the roast, high heat, 450, oil.
That's usually how I do it.
Yeah.
You boil them in heavily salted water.
Heavy salt,
then
right.
pull it out and then roast hard, because then I think it creates a tender inside and it gets some nice char on the outside.
Right, you don't overcook it then. That's smart. What is your typical breakfast?
So Monday through Thursday, that's when we go into the office. It's usually like cereal or avocado toast or cream of wheat. And then the rest of the days, it's something fun like eggs. I love eggs, but tis not the season for eggs.
Right.
I love eggs or dosas, pancakes, and when I have a little bit more time. But I love breakfast.
Oh my gosh, the eggs in running a bakery. Oh my gosh.
I have a video of our egg guy coming in, and I was like, everybody make way. He's the most important person of the day.
Truly, wow. It's what a complicated story. I mean, we joke about it, but it's complicated, right?
It's a deeper issue.
It's tough. The best dessert. Big one.
The strawberry passion fruit tart at Honey's Bakery.
Okay.
Nepotism, but okay.
You're proud of it. Passion fruit. I think about John George. What an innovator with passion fruit. Passion fruit and chocolate.
Yeah.
That was at Spice Market.
Yeah. Oh,
Picheon was the chef back in 1999, 2000.
Yeah. Spice Market was a great restaurant. That was a groundbreaking restaurant. Yeah, Pichet is great. Very talented.
Very talented. Very talented.
Actually, that's a good point that you bring up because I'm pretty sure Miro and Daniel, who's a head baker at Honey's, they both had the combination of strawberry and passion fruit for the first time at John George.
I love that combination. What's your go-to fast food stop?
Shake Shack? Does that count?
Very much so. It's a great answer.
Shake Shack.
You said that very are you just not a fast food person?
Yeah, I don't really eat, and not because I'm trying to be like holier than thou about fast food. I don't think I have many opportunities to eat it. So Shake Shack, I think.
Favorite city in the world to visit for food?
I think this is a bit of a cop-out, so forgive me, but it's going to have to be New York City.
Wow. It's not a cop-out. It's an original idea, and most New York-based people do not say that. But
I think New York. It's a great city. Like, I've traveled, a decent number of places across the world, but I think what's unique about New York is, first of all, you have access to so many different cuisines, in one location, which is rare to find in other parts of the world. And I also think in America in general, we have access to really good quality ingredients. So to me, food tastes typically better here. So I love the adventurous spirit of New York.
Great answer. I think I probably would answer that myself. Do you have a favorite bread?
Okay, my answer is yes, I have two, and they're at the opposite end of the spectrum. One is like shitty sliced, like potato bread.
Yo.
I love it.
Like Martin's?
Like Martin's.
Oh, the slice. We love the buns for burgers, but the slices.
The slice. And that peculiar smell that it makes in the toaster. Somewhat weird and concerning, but also very nostalgic and comforting at the same time. So it's either like a Martin's potato loaf, or it's something very dark and heavy, like a seeded rye.
Yeah.
Like a sturdy bread.
Sturdy.
Yeah.
Milled that day.
Yes.
Nice sourdough.
One of those.
Yeah, I like the contrasts. Your favorite cookbook of all time?
A book that I really enjoyed is Baked to Perfection by Katerina, and forgive me, I might be getting the last name wrong, Sermelj, I think. Excellent book. It's actually a gluten-free book. And I'm not gluten-free by any means, but the way she's explained things in that book, there's illustrations, there's so much detail. Great baking book. That, and I think Sift by Nicola Lamb.
Unbelievable book. Last one, your favorite sandwich?
Oh, I think the pastrami egg and cheese from Frankel's.
Oh, yeah, Frankel's.
Yeah.
Love that shout out. It makes it so good.
I think the American cheese in it. And then we live in Sunnyside, and then Frankel's is in Greenpoint. We always get it delivered. And it's still somehow through that 20-minute or 30-minute ride, it still stays gooey inside. And then the pastrami is in nice hunks. It's not like thinly sliced.
Yeah.
So that contrast. And of course, it has like a squishy roll, probably a Martin's. And it's the squishy bread, these big chunks of seasoned pastrami, this gooey cheese. It really works well, especially when you douse it with a bit of like a Crystal hot sauce.
Crystal! That's the one.
Not Frank's.
I love Crystal. It's my favorite brand too. My dad used to love that one.
Oh.
Shilpa, this has been so much fun. Will you come back?
Oh, if you'll have me, absolutely.
Love to have you back. Thank you so much for joining This Is Taste.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Miro Uskokovic, This Is Taste. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
I have to say, just right off the jump, that Honey's Bakery is like, I can't stop thinking about the things that I've tried there. I think it's such a special place, and I'm so excited to chat with you about it.
Well, thank you very much for saying that. And I'm happy to be here and chat with you as well.
Yeah, in our dark podcast studio together.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk today about like your pastry background and the work that you're doing at Honey's and all of that. But to start, I just want to get a little bit of insight into like who you are as a person and your background in food. And I'm wondering if you have any food memories from growing up that you think were kind of impactful or like shaped your view towards food.
Oh, I had so many. great food memories growing up. I mean, I grew up in like a large Montenegrin family in north of Serbia. My father had many siblings, my mother as well. They all just lived walking distance, and our home was like a paternal home where our grandparents lived as well. So everybody would come on a daily basis. So there was always food, a lot of great food, and my mother cooked. And yeah, like since I can remember, I was always surrounded by food. My mother was a great cheesemaker as well. We grew up on a farm. We had many cows and other animals, and we had a great amount of milk that my mother would make cheese and yogurt and buttermilk. And at one point, we had so much that she would even start selling it. So yeah, she was a great cook, great baker. So I was always surrounded by great food.
You do seem like you have good calcium and like good bones.
Yes, definitely. We had to eat a lot of cheese, a lot of dairy, a lot of milk, and yogurt on a daily basis. We wouldn't go to bed without drinking a glass of yogurt. So
Really?
yes, and it was like drinkable yogurt, kind of like kefir, I
Yeah.
would say, not yogurt like Greek
Have you
yogurt.
had like American Go-Gurt before in the tubes?
Maybe.
There's nowhere it's near as
Maybe at
good
one
as
point.
that.
I mean, it's a similar texture. It's just usually American yogurts are a little bit on the sweeter side because they're flavored, but
Yeah.
we would always drink them plain.
I'm curious, like for birthdays growing up, did you have a birthday cake?
Oh,
Like what
many.
was the celebration kind of food?
Yeah, not one cake. I always had at least 3 to 4 cakes. My mother was a great baker, and she would always go out of her way for, I was the youngest. I would say her favorite, but she loved all her kids equally, and she would always go out of her way to make a wonderful spread of food for our birthdays. I mean, I remember once, maybe I was 7 or 8, she made like I asked her to make a cake in a shape. I loved animals as a kid, so I asked her to make a bear cake. So she made a bear cake. She also made a butterfly cake. She made an owl cake. Like, she was working for like 2 days making and she loved the shapes. And besides that, she also did like these little kind of like breads in the shape of little piggies with like a ketchup and like ham and such. Yeah, she always really would go out and she would take a pride because, we had so much large family and we would always have at least 40, 50 people show up. So it was kind of like a thrill for her as well to make all this wonderful food and share it with our family.
Wow, that's like the most dreamy, incredible childhood I've ever heard of on this show. Do you remember?
I mean, look, let's put it this way. I grew up in a former Yugoslavia, and, when I was 6 years old is when the breakup of Yugoslavia started, which resulted in multiple wars and conflicts that lasted. Great Depression. It was literally the economic collapse was like the size of the Great Depression in the 30s. But I grew up on a farm, and we were very fortunate enough that my parents worked really, really hard growing our food and having homemade milk and cheese and homegrown vegetables. And they really went out of their way to make sure that whatever was happening outside of the home, that children weren't like affected by that. I think that they definitely went through some difficulties and challenges, maybe not as much as like some other people living in former Yugoslavia who actually seen war and fighting and bombs. Like, fortunately where I come from, we really didn't see much of that aside from like 99 bombing of Serbia. But despite all of the situation that was happening, those dark times, like I've grew up fairly sheltered from all of that, and my family really went out of their way to make my life as pleasant as possible. And I was only 6 years old when all of that started, so I really don't remember any other time before that. Maybe my sister does, who was 10 years older than me, so I really didn't have anything more pleasant to compare it to, so I always felt my life was good and happy.
Yeah, I really appreciate you giving that context. And I think when I was talking about it being dreamy, I didn't mean to say that it all was easy, but, actually it was rooted in a reality of like,
course.
Being in this family and in this home
Yes.
where you were able to have those things.
Yes, we had all that we needed. We had food, we had a roof over our head, we were like really happy. There was always kids to play around with, so it was a good childhood.
Cake, yeah.
And I had a bear birthday cake. No matter what was happening, like we had a cake, we had a dessert on our table to make our lives just a little more sweeter.
So I guess you always had this appetite for desserts, but I'm interested when you decided that was kind of something you wanted to spend your life doing.
I think it was a long road to getting to that point. Like every parent, they wish for their child to be, a doctor, engineer, just to be better than what they did in their life. Cooking and being a chef was not necessarily something that was considered like glamorous at that time. I mean, even chef, he was just a cook at that time, right? Like nobody really thought of not even in America, I would say, in like late 90s and 2000s. I think only with like emergence of like Jamie Oliver and all of these like food celebrities did people kind of started shifting their opinion about this profession. But, I was kind of guided in a way like every child is, not pushed, but like kind of guided to do something more and be bigger. I've attended both law school and hospitality for tourism and management, kind of focused on travel when I've started college. But I always loved food. I loved eating. I loved making food. They never really stopped me and told me not to experiment with it. And eventually at one point I realized, okay, like I really love this and I want to pursue a career in food, in chef. Like, I think maybe Jamie Oliver was also like that, like ideal that you see as like, 16-year-old boy, like watching this like young guy, young chef, like making it look cool and fun. And I just decided to go for it.
And you decided to come to America for culinary school.
So I actually came to America first in high school. So I came here as a foreign exchange student in the great state of Indiana to finish high school. And then I went back home to attend college. I wanted to come back to the United States to continue my studies, but that's when, unfortunately, my mother was diagnosed with terminal cancer. So I decided to stay there until she passed away. And then I moved and came to United States for college, came back.
And when you went to Indiana for the first time, your first impressions of America, I imagine the food was probably pretty different in some ways.
In some ways, in all of the ways, as I mentioned earlier, I grew up in, communist and socialist countries. So like all of the food that we consume was like either what you made and, what you could find in a store at the time. There was not that much. The stores were tiny, government run, a lot of times empty shelves, like bread lines, milk lines. So you do come to Indiana, to America as a 60-year-old kid, and Walmart felt like an amusement park, literally. Like, you go there to buy yogurt. It takes you 25 minutes to decide which yogurt to buy because there were so many choices.
Yeah, then you can buy like a gun on your way out also.
That's true. Indiana, you could. I don't know now, but back then you could. Like, everything. You could buy anything, which I found like it was so fascinating to me. Like the Walmart was literally larger than the block that I lived on. And it was really fascinating to see all this food, the abundance of food. Like, we saw it on the movies, right? Like we heard about it, but like until you see it in person, you're like, wow, this is crazy and amazing at the same time.
Do you remember any foods that you tried like your first time in the U.S. or maybe even coming back that were kind of so different or maybe like exciting to you?
I mean, everything. Like, I mean, the amount of protein that people ate here was just remarkable to me. Like, we would get like one chicken for like 7 people. Like here you get like half a chicken per person in Indiana. Like burgers were like a quarter pound, right? Everything was so big. Everything was massive. Like people ate a lot more protein, a lot more starches, less vegetables, a lot more fat, like a lot more dessert. Like fast food was everywhere. Like before then, I maybe had McDonald's once, and that was the only fast food I ever experienced. And now, like, you have Taco Bell, you have Dairy Queen, you have Burger King, like so many options. And as a teenage boy, like you just want to try all of these things. Like I remember I was so obsessed with McDonald's breakfast, which we did not have back home in Serbia, as well as with Taco Bell. I just thought Taco Bell was like the coolest thing ever. Like, I mean, I never experienced any other food aside from like regional food. So, to me, like Taco Bell was like foreign Mexican food, though it's not. But to me, that was like, oh, wow, this is so amazing and cool and like spicy and interesting and intriguing.
Yeah. I'm picturing all of these like receptors in your brain lighting up from eating like that much like MSG, processed food, sugar, salt at the same time.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think I gained like 20 pounds in like the first 4 months.
You're like freshman 15.
But I loved it. I felt like I was like let loose to like enjoy all of this food, and I definitely did.
It's very interesting to me because I think that your bakery, Hani's that you do with Shilpa, it really feels like it's rooted in this kind of like Americana nostalgia, but neither of you actually like grew up here.
No, neither one of us grew up here. I was, as I said, 16 when I arrived. Shilpa was, I believe, in 21, 22. But I think both of us were really fascinated and fell in love with American food very quickly. And as you said, like we maybe didn't grow up with it, but like we were like really immersed in it and really fell for it. And, we decided when we have our own business, we would love it to be like an ode to that experience, or lived experience, not just where we come from, but also where we came to and things that we've learned along the way. And yeah, like even my career, right? Like I spent the last 10 years working in Gramercy Tavern, which is, quintessential American restaurant. So it felt like a natural transition.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about your pastry background
Mhm.
because you were at Gramercy Tavern for so long. You were also,
So
pastry
long.
choux at Jean Georges, all of
Yes.
these other really iconic places. Like, how do you feel like doing this more like fine dining, like upper echelon of restaurants kind of shaped your view on pastry and the kind of food that you want to do?
Oh, it definitely shaped, when I actually just had a meeting with our head baker, Daniel Alvarez, who I want to give a shout out. He's amazing and he's great. And he actually this is his third time that we're working together. We started at Jean Georges like 15 years ago, and then he was Monsieur Chef at Gramercy Tavern and now at Honey's. And before that, he also worked at Daily Provision and Uskokovic Cafe. So we both have like a big background in a pastry, as a pastry chef, not just as a bakers as well. So we were just having a discussion. I was like, our desserts feel very like pastry chef-y rather than baking. Like there's too many, I was telling him there's a lot of components, a lot of garnishes. I was like, maybe we need to like start thinking in more like a baker's and kind of have a little bit more like simpler things. So definitely has shaped, like, I love using a lot of fruits. I love using, herbs, teas, flowers, spices. And, that's what we have been leaning in and honeys. And, now we are approaching spring and summer, and I'm really, really excited. But again, I think we should continue to lean into that and think as a pastry chef, but also kind of go back and be like, okay, let's simplify some things as well to give a variety of things to
Why do you
people.
think you need to simplify? Like from the production point of view, or just because it's doing a lot?
From both, I would say, from everything. Like, I think you just need to have a variety of things. And especially today with the rising food costs, like, obviously, like, if you are complicating things and adding a lot of garnishes, it also adds to the final price tag. So sometimes it's also good to have certain, and I find myself sometimes looking at the menu, I was like, okay, everything is a little bit on a higher end. Understandably so, considering how much work goes into it and ingredients. But I was like, okay, let's think about something a little bit more simpler that, we can also charge a little less, so that way we, there's not like a huge sticker shock that happens to our guests. So like, you just have to always think about everything, like, and everyone, like, that's how we approach it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to think about like what use the neighborhood bakery has
Yes.
for customers as opposed to like the fine dining restaurant that is more of like a special occasion for most people.
Yes. Not everybody wants to have like, this like beautiful croissant tart with passion fruit curd and Harry's berry strawberries. Like a lot of people do, but some people just want to come in and have just like a morning bun, and something just like simple that it's not too intellectual.
Yeah, when you guys were, launching Honey's and doing press, something that I read that I thought was interesting was that, there's like a lot of croissants in the city
Yes.
right now, and that you wanted to make a bakery for the cookie, like cake contingent of people.
Yes.
Where did that idea kind of come from?
Well, it's American, right? So we always knew that we wanted to be like an American-style bakery. And though I think the croissants today, like in the last 10 years, have become such a quintessential part of American food and scene, especially bakeries. But again, like with the rise, as you said, of the croissant, we have a lot of these amazing, amazing bakeries are kind of focusing on croissants, that we felt that there weren't as many who were focusing on cakes. There are definitely some amazing ones, but we felt like there was an opening to maybe explore cakes and cookies and just kind of give people an opportunity that if they want to come, if they get out of work at 3 or 4 p.m., they can always come to our space and they will have a slice of honey cake or Brooklyn Blackout, or they'll have like a pudding in a cup, a sweet treat, after a long day of work that they can grab with their coffee. Because I felt like croissant to me is always more appropriate in the morning hours and maybe like in early afternoon hours. But I personally would never have a croissant at like 3 or 4 p.m. That's the time that I want to have a cake or a cookie. And, we really wanted to make sure that that our hours of operations are 8 to 5. We might be changing them slightly, but it's going to be around the time. We wanted to make sure that we do have something in our case all day long. and things do change. Because as much as I appreciate people who are early risers and who's going to come and wait in the line for an hour, I also want to make sure that we don't alienate people who, maybe work. They're not able to come in the morning. They can only come in the afternoon, again, for like a cookie. So we want to make sure that we have something available for them as well.
Yeah, I think when I've been in the bakery, I've been so kind of overwhelmed and impressed with the level of like activity that's always happening. Like
Yeah.
there's so many people in your kitchen, there's so many people behind the counter, and you're always bringing things out. And I think, obviously if something is popular, maybe it won't be available, but the fact that you throughout the day, it seems like are continuing to bake things off
Yes.
and replenish the case. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about like the operations of just like how do you make all of this work?
Oh, it's a lot of people. So there's about 22 people that works at Honey's. We start as early as 4:30 in the morning. And that's when our bake-off team comes in, meaning they come in the morning to do the final proofing, garnishing, and baking. And that's when we, I just want to clarify, though, we do not have a traditional shaped croissant and, nothing against it. We just felt like we wanted to, there's so many other things that we wanted to like highlight on our menu. And there's so many other places do wonderful traditional croissants, so let them do that. That doesn't mean that we don't have laminated pastries. We do, we do make croissant dough, we make a puff pastry, and we make other things out of it that, like our pigs in a blanket. We had a hand pie kind of like take on burekas. We have now croissant tart, which we call our croissant tart just so people understand. Sometimes you have to simplify language to explain to people quicker, but it's kind of more like a cross between croissant and a queen amande, and then it comes with like a passion fruit and strawberries.
So good.
So certain things only are in the morning. Things are a little bit more like breakfasty. Like we have some flatbreads as well that we do, like shakshuka flatbread, like our smoked salmon flatbread. It's kind of odd to like New York, everything bagel. But then certain things are coming out later, like 10 o'clock or 11, we start having more cakes and more like desserty options. So 4:30, we have people start coming in, and then we have rest of the team kind of trickling in at different hours, some at 6, some at 8, some come at 12:30. So, and usually the operations wrap up somewhere around 10:30 or 11 o'clock. We are a relatively small space.
Mhm.
There's only about 800 square feet of the kitchen space that we have. We serve somewhere around 3,000 people a week, which is crazy. 800 square feet kitchen space. So we have to have enough of people to make this. We try not to overwork people. Like they work on average around 45, maybe 50 maximum hours a week. That's why we have a larger team. And we kind of spread everybody's hours so that way they're not into each other's way. So it's a lot of like moving things around, and like even now 3.5 months in, like we're still kind of trying to make it the most efficient. And I think fortunately with my background, with Daniel's background, our store manager as well, Rachel Chang, who worked in some great places like Tate Bakery and in Boston and like Sargina in Brooklyn, like, with Shilpa as well, who has an extensive experience, and other team members, we are always improving and moving and trying to make this as efficient as possible. And I think we are doing a good job. We are not 100% there yet. I think I would say we're 75% there. I don't think so we ever will be 100%, knowing all of us. We are always looking how to make this more efficient and more streamlined. I know everybody's crazy about lines. We have lines on a weekend. I don't know, maybe just a PTSD from like my communist time. The bread lines did not mean something good. Like it usually meant something terrible. It was out of the necessity and depression. So like when I see lines, I'm grateful for people for giving me that opportunity, but I also know how difficult and challenging it is to just stand in the line for a croissant. So we really tried to move things as quickly as possible. That's why you'll see me or Shilpa on a door on the weekends, like organizing the line, moving the line, kind of like cleaning, picking up, jumping behind the counter, just kind of moving things as seamless as possible. Because to me, it is not just providing people the best possible food that you can cook, but it's also every other part of that experience really has to be pleasant for them. And, the last thing we want is for someone to like wait in line for an hour and not get something that they wanted or not having options or.
Yeah. Did you ever think you would be a pastry bouncer at your
No.
bakery?
I actually do enjoy it. At the beginning was like weird, but I actually do enjoy it because I get to talk to people and I see, and people do kind of know who you are. A lot of people know that that's you. You're the chef and your owner, or sometimes they'll ask who's the chef owner, and I'll say it's me. And you can see how people love that. Like people love to see me or Shilpa at the door, like welcoming them in. It's really like an experience, right? Like they're saying like, oh, wow, like if the chef is able to be at the door and welcome me in, it's already kind of like half a battle won. That maybe if they don't get the cinnamon bun, they will not be as upset.
Yeah, I hope that no one is giving you a hard time
No.
if they can't get something. I
No.
feel like when I've been there, everyone is so excited. And it's interesting because you opened when it's been cold in the city, but, as it's getting warmer, like, there are much worse things than standing on, like, 2nd Avenue, right? And, like...
Oh, it's a
First Ave?
Cooper. It's essentially 3rd Avenue kind of merging into Cooper Square, yes.
There are much worse things than standing on Cooper Avenue, 3rd Avenue area.
That's
and
true. But look, it's like somebody wakes up, comes in the morning, they wait for an hour. Like, it is, you don't know, maybe they had a bad day at work or something's happening at home. So people sometimes will get a little bit upset. I get that. But it is also on us to kind of manage the situation as well and, put ourselves in their position, in their shoes. And, things always happen. But, I always tell everyone, myself starting and then our front of the house, just always look how to diffuse the situation. Like put yourself into their position, into their feet. Not everybody's just entitled. Some people simply maybe they had a bad day and, they wanted to come and have your cinnamon bun and now they don't have it. So, we have other options that you can offer and entice them to. So, but generally those situations, the cases are just like maybe I can count them on one hand a week. As I said, we serve nearly like 3,000 people, and most of them are extremely kind and nice and pleasant, and it's really a joy.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about how you approach like what goes in the pastry case, because I know that sometimes you rotate things out based on the season. I imagine like spring and summer produce is coming in and there are probably like new things that you want to do. So do you think of things as like core offerings, or is everything kind of up for fair game to be rotated in and out?
I mean, I was hoping that everything would be like a fair game, but I knew that some stuff are going to become like signature things that I don't think so we can really change. Like we can maybe like tweak and improve on those. Probably will, but our three top selling items is triple chocolate chunk cookie, our cinnamon bun, and our carrot cake, and everybody loves that. I think those are going to stay. They're going to go anywhere. Maybe we'll like try to always improve the dough to make sure that it's more moist and more soft. If we hear complaints from guests, or like maybe we'll try to like have a different ratios of chocolate as well in our cookie. But generally, like those things will stay same. Like our carrot cake right now is with pineapple jam. Like so, it's like layers of carrot cake, cream cheese mousse, and pineapple jam. In the fall was pear and cardamom compote. So probably that might change, like the jam and the compote that we use in our carrot cake might change seasonally, but those will stay. But everything else is kind of fair game, I would say. Maybe honey cake is also there to stay.
So good.
It's an interesting. So our honey cake was my mother's favorite dessert. My mother loved honey cake. It's also known as a medovik or medena pita, like we would say in Serbia. Not my favorite dessert. I will be honest with you. Maybe as you said, you earlier before we started, you were talking about a gefilte fish. Like to me, like honey cake too was like, no kids like honey. Like all the kids love chocolate.
Yeah.
Like honey, I was like, oh gosh, why do I have to have like a honey dessert or sour cream dessert? Like enough. Like I want Nutella, Ferrero Rocher. So I never really cared much for it, but she loved it. And when we were opening a bakery, we were like, okay, it's called Honey's Bakery, and it's named after my mother. It was my nickname for her, Honey. And it was her favorite dessert, so it kind of made sense for us to put it on the menu. And I didn't really feel that people it's not that I didn't know people are not going. It kind of became popular, I would say, in the last few years, not like mainstream, but I didn't feel people are going to order as much as they did. Actually, we sell more honey cake than we sell of our Brooklyn Blackout cake, which to me is shocking because chocolate, no matter where I worked, the chocolate desserts were always the best selling. The chocolate cake was always the best selling. And maybe it's because you can find so many amazing chocolate cakes around the city, but you cannot find so many honey cakes. So maybe that's why people are more like interested and intrigued to try it. But we consistently have high sales of our honey cake, which is kind of like, honey layers with like sour cream and caramel mousse, and it's kind of layered. It's kind of our cross between traditional and American icebox cakes, I would say, and kind of let it sit until it's softened. And so maybe that is something that will also stay since it's doing much, much better than I ever expected.
That's so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It's really interesting to be like the owner and in the POS system and able to see the sales every week. I imagine it must be this kind of tension between wanting to give people what they want and also give people new things that they might not know that they want, but they probably do.
Yes. And, of course, like you have to give people what they want, right? Like I cannot go too esoteric and crazy. But I think that kind of gave us, seeing how honey cake performed gave us like a confidence. Okay, maybe we should start like featuring here and there more of these like Central European cakes that I grew up eating, and try to, bring that background of mine in a bakery a little bit more, and share like love for these cakes with people, and maybe they'll reciprocate better and like enjoy better.
Yeah, I think also when it's like in the context of everything else that you have to offer, like most people I imagine are not buying just one thing. Maybe they're getting like a little sampler platter. They're bringing something home for somebody who didn't make it. So it can kind of like round out an offering.
And that's actually another surprise of mine. Like rarely we see somebody just coming and grabbing one thing. Like,
I mean, it's very hard to look at that case. I had this experience, right? I love carrot cake, and your carrot cake is, even the presentation is not what you would expect as the traditional one. It's this beautiful kind of rectangular layered slice. Yeah. Then I see banana pudding. Then I see the like pistachio halva Rice Krispie treat.
Yes.
That texture is crazy.
That's crazy. And, when we, pistachio Rice Krispies is such a quintessential American thing that we were like, and we love it. Both Shilpa and I love it. And she actually also published a great recipe for Rice Krispies for Bon Appetit magazine. And we use that recipe as a base to make our current version, which is pistachio and sesame halva. And we were like, okay, let's put it on the menu. We both love it. I felt like, okay, like, people make that at home. Like maybe we'll have few people buy it. But let's just have it. It's not really that hard or difficult to make. And people just went crazy for it. Like we go, I'm not joking. I think we probably go through 6 or 7 large cases, like a wholesale cases of Rice Krispies a week. We just cannot keep up. There are times like we like sell out of the Rice Krispies, and we make them in these like a big frames, like a sheet tray frames. And sometimes we have to make like 4 or 5 sheet tray frames. And like we have 2 supervisors, AM supervisor and PM supervisor in the kitchen. And practically all they do half a day is like make Rice Krispies. And we all just like laugh at how popular it is and how many people have it. I was like, it's so amazing. It's fascinating.
I'm obsessed with it because the texture it has that kind of like snappy, crumbly Rice Krispie texture that you'd expect, but then the like sesame halva is like almost kind of like melting while you're eating it. Also, you give it and like it's hefty. Like I dropped it in my bag and I felt my bag like sink down a little bit,
Sometimes we are like, okay, are we crazy to have such a large portions? But then again, I'm like, that's an American thing, right? Like, that's what I felt about America when I came here. Everything was large, oversized, and big. And I felt like, okay, that's how our cookie is. Like, our cookie is huge. It's like I think it's like 6 inches. It's like, I think it's like 160 grams. I don't know. Forgive me. I don't know what's in the ounces. It's big, like our Rice Krispies too. And I feel that's what people also get attracted to it. Like, it's flavor, texture too. But when they see it like such an imposing big chunk of the Rice Krispies, they really love it. And, we wanted to make it a little more fun. Like we make it with pistachios, pistachio paste, chopped pistachios. We make our own halva. So, we do love seed and meal halva, but we use seed and meal tahini, but we make our own halva with it, which is also another fun thing to do. Not that difficult and challenging. And it's also what I grew up, many people don't realize the Balkan was under the Ottoman Empire for nearly 5 centuries. So our food is very similar to like Middle Eastern food, what you would consider. So, halva was a part of food growing up too. So, even though we took like an American treat like Rice Krispies and we kind of gave it like, Serbian and Indian twist to it because, halva too and pistachios is also very common in India too. As many people probably know more about Indian food than Serbian food. So, we always kind of look how we can bring certain elements of our background into food that we make.
Yeah, I really like that. And I think just to the point of having big serving sizes, it just makes it give this feeling that it's a shareable thing, right?
Yes.
I think I would be like, I could definitely eat that Rice Krispie treat by myself, but the last time I had it, I brought it over to my friends who live nearby. I took a knife, cut it up into 4 chunks, and it was like the perfect way to kind of eat it.
And that's what we want. And it's really amazing to see, especially on the weekends when I work the door, like I get to see all of the things firsthand and like seeing like families of 4 or 5 coming in, grabbing a few things, and they'll go in a counter, like cut things in pieces and then go about their way, go across the park and just sit there and enjoy. It's really amazing to see that.
Yeah, it'll be really nice once it's like proper spring, summer here to get to go to the park or Tompkins or something.
Mm-hmm. And we are looking to maybe spiff up our outdoor as well and have some seating too. Yeah, I love just sitting. It reminds me of Europe, right? Like cafes and bakeries, there's always like an outdoor seating where you go grab a coffee or pastry and just like sit down and just enjoy people passing by.
Yeah, my favorite, like my dream day is that it's nice enough out that I can leave my apartment in the morning and then just have no plans but walk around and just like go eat a pastry outside and then bump into somebody in the park and just kind of exist.
Yeah, exactly.
Talking about the warmer months, I'm curious if you have any like dream plans for like summer produce on the menu or anything like that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like, I just cannot wait. Like, we couldn't really wait. We already put rhubarb and a strawberry on the menu. We managed to get, I love Harry's berries. I'm sure you're familiar with them. They're wonderful strawberries from California, small farm, like the greatest strawberries ever. So we did this like croissant Queen Amman tart with passion fruit and strawberry, and it's very popular. So we're probably going to keep that format throughout the year and just kind of change the fruit. Probably going to bring some cakes. We're talking about some new cakes as well that we want to highlight. Talking about doing like coffee cake. I love coffee cake. Sour cherry coffee cake was very popular growing up and like one of those like things that you make just a daily snack. So, we're working with this testing, but sour cherries as well. Love peaches. I just really cannot wait. I'm really excited. I mean, if you ever eaten my desserts at Gramercy Tavern, you know that I loved fruit, love berries, love stone fruit, love cherries, pies as well, and I just really cannot wait. Like so far we had only cream pies on a menu, from lemon meringue to like banana. Right now we have like a banana butterscotch pudding cream pie, but I just cannot wait to have more fruit pies available.
I'm so excited. I love fruit desserts, but whenever I go to the market to buy fruit, I have all these things that I want to do with it, and I always just end up eating it like, by itself. I think probably because I love baking. I like to eat baked goods, but I'm not really a baker, and also because I just have a hard time like not eating all of the peaches. So I need somebody like you to make something else with them so I can have that kind of secondary experience.
Yeah. And we just ordered soft serve machine. So I'm so excited about that. It's actually arriving this week. I didn't realize it's going to be so quick, but it's kind of good because it will allow us time to like test. I never worked much with a soft serve machine, and surprisingly, there's not that much information available. There's a lot about ice creams, but not so much about a soft serve. So I'm kind of excited to start recipe testing for that. And we have like some fun ideas that we will how to utilize the soft serve. We also have a takeout window too. So we have some fun ideas of how to utilize that. Maybe
like soft serve in the takeout window?
Maybe beyond our current hours of operation. We'll see. Maybe on the weekends. So we are doing some plans, talking about a lot of different things. There's so many wonderful bakeries in East Village. There's so many options that you can enjoy in the morning and in the afternoon. But all of us close by 5, 6, and there's not so many options in the evening, but people still want to have desserts, especially in the weekend. So we are kind of contemplating how to utilize our space and maybe extend our hours on certain days.
I'm really excited about this. I love soft serve,
Me
Mr.
too.
Softy. I will like run down the block for, but I think there are not a lot of restaurants, I guess like Leo Sourdough Pizza in
Okay.
Williamsburg. They do really good seasonal soft serve.
Yeah.
They do like this Concord grape flavor in the fall,
Okay.
swirled with salted caramel, that during the pandemic, my whole activity for the day would be like walking to Williamsburg to get this Concord
Oh.
grape soft serve when it was in season.
Yeah, I don't
But
think I've ever had theirs. Yeah.
you should go.
Yeah.
We could go as like a little
should.
field trip and try it. But I think soft
Lane
serve is
Stream,
like,
Lane Industry makes a great soft serve.
they do too.
Yeah, and I don't know, have you had Seed and Mill soft serve?
No.
I think it's like one of the best. It's also vegan too. It's like an oat soft serve with the challah.
Oh.
It's really, really, really
Do
good.
they do it out of Chelsea Market?
Yeah, the Chelsea Market. They have it year long. It's pretty good, pretty delicious.
Wow.
Yeah, it's small, but like it's just enough. Like, challah is kind of rich by
Yeah.
itself. Soft serve is also on the richer side too. So I love soft serve. I mean, that's one of the things that I went crazy for when I came to America. Dairy Queen, like Indiana Dairy Queen was huge. So to me, I was just like, oh my God. Or like my first job ever in food industry when I was in college was in McDonald's. McDonald's have famous soft serve, and I just loved it. Every night when we were breaking down and cleaning, when we were emptying the machine, I would put like chocolate fudge on the bottom, soft serve, and caramel sauce on top. And that was like my snack during the
Yum.
cleaning. I loved it.
Oh, I love picturing like
Yeah.
little Miro doing that. I feel like soft serve is all about the swirl. Were you
Yes.
doing a good job swirling in your college McDonald's days? I imagine you would
Yeah.
be. Do you think there's a secret to it, or is it just like keeping the movement going?
Yeah, it's just like keeping the movement going. It takes I haven't done it in 20 years, so it's probably going to take a second to get back. But yeah, there was the way that you were moving your hand with a cup to like get that. It looks easy, but it's really not that easy.
I know that it isn't because it varies so much at the different Mr. Softy trucks around the
Yes.
city. And there's one by Fort Greene Park that's like my one that I go to. And there are these two guys who I think are cousins who do it. And I look in the window, and if it's one of them, then I go. And if it's the other one, then I don't, because the difference in the swirl is so substantial that I just feel like you get a lot less ice cream that way.
Of course. And we also eat visually, right? Like first we eat with our eyes. So you do want to make sure that it looks good.
Okay, so we've talked about stone fruit. We've talked about
Mhm.
soft serve. We talked about the window. Is there anything else in the future of Honey's that you want to share right now?
Oh yeah, we're gonna have sandwiches soon. So that's something that like we always it's called Honey's Bakery and Cafe. So we always wanted to have a cafe aspect, not always more bakery but less cafe. But we wanted to have sandwiches and such. We right now have a lot of great like savory options, like baked goods in the morning as well as our flatbread. But we weren't able to put a sandwiches on the menu because we had a little not an issue, but it took us a time to get more power in. Anyone that lives in New York that ever did construction knows that it takes months, sometimes years, with working with a Con Edison and dealing with like a gas and electricity. So we finally figured it out. We have enough of power. I myself did not know how much power panini presses take. Like one panini press takes more amps than like all of our mixers put together, and we have
Really?
like 6. Yes, I think it's like 25 amps or something, and 80 quart Hobart is only like 9 amps. So like it's huge. Like induction burners as well.
Those
And
paninis are getting like really pressed, huh?
Yes, yeah, it's really like takes a lot of power. Like in induction burners too. Like we can only have like one induction burner in the plug at the time. It's like it's the first 2-3 months. Like we had to open, and we bought all this equipment, but we had to open even though we did not have all of the amps that we tended to. So it was kind of like plugging and unplugging at least like once or twice a day. On the weekends we will like lose power, like the breakers will flip and we would have to. So it was
New York
funny, very New
experience.
York. It was funny, but now we have power. Now we have people. We are now training everybody on it. We are doing some recipe testing, so hopefully we're going to start soon rolling some more sandwiches and more savory options.
Okay, I'm so excited to come back and try all of these things,
Yeah.
hopefully at once or in many trips. And to close today, I want to play a rapid fire
Okay.
taste check with you. I'm going to ask you to play some favorites. It's going to be fine.
Okay.
Your favorite ice cream flavor to get at a shop?
Haagen-Dazs pistachio.
Mm.
It's more tastes like an almond extract, but I love almond extract.
Your favorite item in the pastry case at Honey's right now?
Right now, I would say it's our strawberry passion fruit croissant tart.
Mm. The most difficult recipe that you've served at Honey's to get just right?
Oh my God. Lemon pound cake. Can you believe that?
Why?
Oh my God. I don't know. It was, everybody talks about how difficult it is to make croissants and laminated pastry, but people really rarely talk about how difficult it is to make cakes, right? It's one thing when you make like a one small cake at home or even in the bakery, but when you try to scale things up, like, we don't make like one loaf of lemon pound cake. We would make like 10 at a time in like a large, not the small, but like huge loaves. And, so there's so many things that go into it. And we were just having really difficult and challenging time making it consistent and making like the perfect, like fluffy texture that we wanted. Like, I always kind of imagine it to be like Starbucks, like lemon loaf.
Yeah.
And have, but they're a large, they're a large corporation that they have large commissaries. They probably add additives to it that makes it a little bit more consistent. But we of course, don't want to go down that route. So it was really like, it was kind of inconsistent and we're still kind of working on it. And at one point I was just like, let's just take it off the menu and let's just like work behind the scene until we figure it out. And, because you want it to be like nice, soft, tender, like even crumb. You want it to have like a pungent, like lemony flavor and like acidity. And a lot of people loved it. I just personally was not happy with it. And sometimes when you're not happy with it, like it's just, even though like other people might be, it's just better to like retire it. And, you don't want to be like every day, be like, oh gosh, shit, like why? It's not what I want.
Make
like,
room for all the other things.
Everybody, you have to be happy yourself first, and then, guests will be happy too. So,
okay. One of your favorite places to get dessert in the city?
Ooh, in the city. I mean, there's so many.
You can do a couple.
Where do I start? Like in East Village, I love. Our neighbors, I love La Cabra. They have a delicious pain suisse. I love at Libre. They have tahini chocolate croissant, which I recently had. It was so delicious. Where else? I'm thinking about the restaurants. Like Cloud across the street from us, they have a really good like pistachio bun and a chocolate cake. I love to go to Radio too. It's in I live nearby, and I just was there like last weekend. They had this like delicious custard croissant tart that was really good. There's so many.
Radio opened a new location in Prospect Heights, which is closer to me, and I really want to get the rhubarb custard croissant that they're doing, but I don't, per our earlier conversation, I don't wake up early enough to get it, and it's always sold out by the time that I go. So,
and one of my favorite desserts ever, that no longer is available. You might know Chickalicious, Chica Tillman, who had like a famous Chickalicious dessert bar, and across the street she used to have Chickalicious Club, where she used to make tiramisu mochi. So she would make like tiramisu, like it was ladyfinger, sponge, like mousse, and then she will cover it in like tiramisu wrap. And it was like one of the greatest like desserts I have ever had in my life, honestly. She's no longer. The funny thing is like Chica Tillman and Dot Tillman, they're neighbors. They live in our building right above Honey's Bakery. So I see them quite often. And I beg her all the time, could you please? She's retired now. She closed her shop like a few months ago. And I'm like, please, can you like just make it for me? Like I'll pay you whatever you need, or just share the recipe, or maybe like we'll do a pop-up one day. But I would say that's probably one of the greatest desserts I've ever had in my life.
You said tiramisu mochi and my heart stopped. Last night I ate a bunch of like mochi green tea ice cream, like the ones you buy from the bodega, but it's so satisfying.
So good. Yeah, the mochi texture is like chewy, soft. Like it's, it's so beautiful and so amazing.
A Serbian dessert that you think should be more widely known like outside the country?
I would say a reform torta, which is a chocolate cake. It's like a walnut layers, multi-layer walnut, and then chocolate butter mousse. It's an interesting story, though I never was able really to pinpoint exactly how that cake originated, but many people say that it was the product of these like socialist reforms that were passed after the World War II, when certain ingredients were made widely available to the masses. Like they couldn't really produce butter, so they were able to produce margarine. So everybody was able to cook with margarine. There was more chocolate available. There was more nuts available. So the cake is made with walnuts, eggs, chocolate, margarine, not butter. So these things that you really didn't have available, suddenly you do. So it kind of became one of the, traditional cakes that, everybody, maybe in different parts of Yugoslavia was called differently. In Serbia it was called reform cake. and it's delicious. I love it. It's kind of like dacquoise and with like chocolate buttercream. Our good friend Rose Levy Birnbaum, who wrote a cake Bible, she loved it so much that she actually included the Shilpa. It was Shilpa's recipe, not mine, which is a funny thing, right? Because though I grew up eating all these like Central European cakes, I never like really baked them myself, and it was always like Shilpa developed her honey cake, not me. So I just want to make it clear. She did the reform cake for Rose's book, and probably we're going to put it in the menu eventually. We started talking about it. So it's kind of like funny, though. She herself have never grew up eating those things. She ended up like developing and making them, and they're making them just as good, if not better, than many that I had back home.
Wow, I can't wait to try it on the menu. Yeah. Okay, I don't know if this exists for you, but something that you would never make from scratch.
At home or at work?
I guess if either category, if you have one.
At home, I would never make croissants or like laminated dough. It's just
okay,
like
but you make them at work.
I make them at work, but it's a different, right? Like work, you have a big space, you have a sheeter, you have like, you have enough of refrigeration space, right?
Yeah.
At home, like it's a small fridge, like, it is making laminated dough is very temperamental, and it's a lot of temperature control that you need. It's a lot of hassle, right? So like at work, of course, it's easy, like when you have these things. So
right.
And then like, why would I make it at home when I can make it at work?
You could go to your bakery.
So I would never do it at work. But at work, I would never make, though I did try to make speculoos, for example, the Biscoff cookie butter. I tried to make it at work, even in Gramercy Tavern a few times. It just never gets that texture and that flavor. So, right now we have it on the menu. We're putting in our monkey bread on the weekends, and it's something that we just buy Biscoff cookie butter, and you just cannot beat it.
Yeah, it's like making your own ketchup versus buying it.
Yes, exactly. I mean, probably it's even easier to make ketchup, I'll be honest with you. It's like really, like, grind, like you need to have these machines, right? Like, which it's not available. Like these grinders that you really, in a RoboCoupe trying to make it, it always looks like some whipped paste, never looks what it's supposed to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, final question. A fictional food scene, like from a book or a movie, that you wish you could eat in real life?
One of the earlier food memories of food that I saw on TV was, as a kid, I loved X-Files. I don't know, do you?
Yeah.
You're a little bit younger than me, so X-Files.
No, X-Files is a classic.
It's a classic.
Everyone has to watch it.
I loved X-Files, and I remember this episode. I really don't remember anything else about the episode. It's probably some like monster, government conspiracy, whatever. But the first opening scene was this lady who I believe was a spy or something. She was in the airport, and she was like eating these like big, huge, what I learned later on were dumplings, gyozas. But at the time, like, young Miro and like Yugoslavia, like I didn't even know what Asian food is at the time. So I was just fascinated with this like huge, meaty, juicy, like dumplings that she was eating. And I was like, oh my God, like, what is this? Like, and we didn't have internet at the time, just like to Google and find out. And then later on, years later, I've learned it was gyoza, it was dumplings. And I just cannot wait to have it. And I still think about this scene. Like, it was maybe a dumb thing, but like it just left such a big impression on me. And today, like, I love dumplings. I have never met a dumpling or gyoza that I did not like. So, and I always think about this scene.
I love that answer. I think you're the first person that has brought up X-Files in all the times that I've asked this question, but it's a great answer. I love
Scully and Mulder. I love them.
Scully forever.
Yeah, I hope I meet one day Gillian Anderson and David Duchovny. They're such a great.
If they came into the bakery, what would you give them?
I don't know. I mean, I met a lot of celebrities over the years, and even presidents. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like she's cool. She's having like this like resurgence with the sex education show, which is great, and some others. So, and she seems cool and fun. You don't see him so much around, but like I think there's such a big part of my growing up in the childhood. I really loved that show. It was still my favorite show. I would really love to have them at Hani's Bakery. I don't know what would I do. Probably serve and take a picture.
Give them everything.
Tell them.
Yeah. Wait, I have to know what presidents you've met.
Oh, I got a chance to cook for Bill and Hillary Clinton at Gramercy Tavern. They came in for like a private dinner, and Obama also came, and Michelle was actually an Untitled when we opened the Whitney Museum. During the opening Whitney Museum, I opened Untitled at the Studio Cafe, so she was there. We got to cook for her, and she also came in at Gramercy Tavern shortly after I started working too. He came in shortly after his presidency was over. I believe it was, when was that, 2007. He came in for dinner.
Wow. Well, Miro, I could really talk to you all day, but I think we'll close the episode here. Thank you so much for coming into the studio.
This is Taste is hosted and produced by Aliza Barbanel and me, Matt Rodbard. The show is edited by lead producer Clayton Gumbert and supervised by Pat Stango, Director of Media Production and Development at Penguin Random House. Thanks to Shalia Harris and the production team at Penguin Random House. Theme music by Steve Rydell. Logo and guest illustrations by Ellie Skurzat. Visit Taste online at tastecooking.com and make sure to subscribe to our newsletter to keep updated on all cool things in the world of taste.